Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas. I'm the commercial director of a real estate agency, and we have a new segment. And today we have a new yet familiar and interesting topic: mortgages for non-residents. Honestly, I don't even know. We've talked about this so many times already that I'm not sure what new I can add, but I'll try to share my perspective and sum it all up very briefly. Why briefly? To be honest, I think it's actually super simple. So for me, the process of getting a mortgage as a non-resident looks like this. First of all, there are no restrictions. Absolutely any citizen of any country can get a mortgage. Well, of course, unless you're on a blacklist, wanted, on Interpol's list, and so on and so forth. So if you're just a regular living person living, that's my professional defamation showing. If you're just an ordinary living person walking around on planet Earth, you have a job, you can more or less prove your income, although that's not always required either. But overall, you can qualify for a mortgage. Moreover, this year in 2025, even the government and the banking system have relaxed the rules. If before you needed a 40% or in some cases even a 50% down payment, now it's just 30%. Even if you're non-resident, you can get a mortgage. Basically, there are two scenarios when you start using a mortgage. For example, if you bought an apartment from a developer, kept making payments, paid in installments, but when your installment plan ended, you hadn't paid off the full amount, so you need to switch to a mortgage. There are absolutely no difficulties with that. As a rule, either the developer or the broker or agent through whom you bought the apartment will take you by the hand as a client and guide you through all the processes. It's also the developer's partner bank, so the requirements are reduced by 90% compared to usual. And your mortgage is automatically approved, your apartment is encumbered, and that's it. Your payments switch to monthly installments. And actually, now that I think about it while I'm telling you this, in 2025, many very large developers will even have their own internal mortgage programs for 10 years, where they offer mortgages at 8% or even at 6%. Well, again, it all depends on how your broker negotiates with them. And by the way, this is actually very advantageous and more profitable than at the bank, because at the very least, there are no extra fees. And those extra fees include insurance, which is required in any case. And if I'm not mistaken, the second one is also home insurance. That's also necessary. And also, by the way, if you make a partial early repayment, you have to pay commission as well. Or rather, how does it work? There are certain limits. For example, one of the banks sets a limit that you can make partial early repayments of up to 10,000 lari per month, which is a little less than $4,000. If you exceed this limit, then for the amount you go over, you'll be charged a commission. Somewhere it's 1%, somewhere 2%, somewhere 0.5%. These are also individual cases. In general, to resolve all these individual cases, I recommend either writing to us in the comments or submitting a request, and our company's brokers will help you sort everything out. And there's a second way. The second way is when you come and choose a resale property, whether it's for renting out or for living in yourself. That process is a bit more complicated. You need to get the cadastral code, and it's absolutely necessary to check the cadastral code for all legal aspects. Even though the bank conducts its own check separately, I still recommend doing an additional preliminary check. After that, the bank sends out an appraiser, and it usually takes from 1 to 5 days for the appraiser to visit and prepare the valuation. As a rule, the discount is about 60 to 80% of the total value. What is the discount? That is, if the apartment costs $100,000, in reality, the mortgage you approve for will be from $60,000 to $80,000. The rest, yes, you will need to cover with your down payment. And as a rule, that's 30%. After the appraiser issues their report, confirming that your appraisal has been completed, you then gather that very same set of documents. Mainly, this includes your passport and proof of income in the format required for citizens of your country. For example, if it's Israel or Europe, generally speaking, a simple statement from your bank account is sufficient. If it's Russia, Belarus, and so on, then you need to provide either a 2NDFL form or a certificate in the bank's format. You gather all these documents together and submit them either to your broker or directly to the bank. But most often you do this through a broker because of all the language barriers and so on. The broker communicates with the manager on your behalf. You wait 2 or 3 days for approval, and congratulations. You receive a positive decision. Congratulations from the banker, congratulations from the broker. You sign all the documents, and basically you can move into your apartment. In my experience, the longest case probably took, 3 weeks. But in that case, the main issues were with the documents themselves. And again, that was a rather complex deal. The property was complicated, the owner was quite interesting, and the buyer was interesting as well. But still, it took 3 weeks, and we succeeded. The fastest case in my experience, yes, over the past 2.5 years, was when we completed the entire process in just 2 days. So it happened that we chose the property in the morning, and by midday, an appraiser somehow miraculously showed up very quickly. By the next morning, we already had the appraiser's decision. I mean, during the day, we received approval, signed the documents, and finalized the whole deal. So now, even though we're already, far from the beginning of the journey, we work with the top 5 banks that issue mortgages in Georgia. And in Georgia, overall, there aren't that many banks. So basically, the top 5 are pretty much all the major banks, and we partner with each of them. We have appraisers everywhere who specifically work with us. So the work is done quite efficiently. But that case was unique, the only one we've ever had. That's probably all for now. I don't really have anything else particularly new to share. And even what I did share isn't exactly brand new either. We just went over it again to refresh your memory. If you're interested in this topic, or if you have a request for us to fully assist and guide you through your mortgage transaction, or help you find an apartment that can be purchased with a mortgage, you can either leave us a comment or send us a direct message, and we'll be happy to get in touch and help you make your dream come true. Although, of course, a mortgage isn't exactly the dream of a lifetime, it's more of a great tool. I'm not sure if I should leave that in, but still, that's the fact. I really do think so. In other words, a mortgage is a really great tool for people who know how to use it properly. By the way, I can say with confidence that our specialists, this is really a story for investors. Our specialists will help you properly calculate whether you should use a mortgage as a tool when buying real estate, specifically for investment purposes. And as for investments, I'll talk about that in a separate video. It will be quite interesting because over these 3 years, everything has changed on the market, especially in the last 7 or 8 months. I'll share both my old experience and my new experience with you. We had seemingly finished, but after we wrapped up, Katya said to me, "Listen, you explained everything really well, but do they actually approve mortgages in every case? Sounds like some kind of perfect world." I realized that I hadn't mentioned something. What about when the opposite happens? Do people ever get denied a mortgage? Yes, obviously people do get denied. Both residents and non-residents can be denied, and the rejection rate is more or less the same for both. For example, if we look at our company's experience, out of 10 residents, 5 might be denied for various reasons. Insufficient income, the apartment is too expensive, too much existing debt, inability to service the loan, or failure to provide the necessary documents. In some cases, they also request internal documents and so on. But really, I've just mentioned the 2 most common reasons. It's exactly the same for non-residents. So there are definitely reasons for denial. Although I would even say that in my entire practice, in about 30% of cases where there are rejections, the refusal is usually due to 2 things. The non-resident is hiding the fact that they are on blacklists in other countries and not disclosing it. And now many databases are shared and there is this data exchange. The second point is when a non-resident cannot provide any proof of income and immediately buys a property on the secondary market, that is without any background, like entering the mortgage through a primary property, and they can't provide any documentary proof of their income at all. In other words, it's just, I simply have money. Well, just having money, okay, we might be able to avoid the compliance check on the down payment. But when the bank asks how are you going to make the payments, you need to provide some kind of documentation. Overall, these are probably the main reasons why you might be denied. I don't see any others. If other reasons or cases come up, this won't be the last video we make. So if anything new arises, we'll just record something new and update the information for you. Now I'm really saying goodbye. All the best to you. Bye.